Hey everybody, welcome back to theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Again, that website address is theclinicaltrialsguru.com. This is going to be a quick video. I think when it comes down to clinical trial study participant recruitment, and I'm going to do a full podcast about this. So for those of you people watching on YouTube or on my blog, I do have a podcast on Stitcher or on iTunes. Check it out. Just search Clinical Trials Guru and you'll find it. I'm going to do a full-length podcast on this. But for YouTube, I wanted to get it out there, and I talked about it before in previous videos. There's a good way to recruit in your area, like in your geographic area, and that's for research clinics who are not planning to move anytime soon. So there is going to be some investment as far as what the work you put in now, as far as your marketing and how that will affect you in the future going forward. And it works really well, I believe, with general medicine studies, or indications that a lot of study participants may suffer from, like a broad amount of people will suffer from. And that is to get by the domain for your city name, followed by radio, and then a .com. So go to GoDaddy.com, search domain names, like let's say you're in Denver, get denverradio.com. Let's say you're in Irvine, look for irvineradio.net. I bought that one, so I'm just using that as an example. I also have anaheimradio.net. So if your .com is not available, look for .net. But anyways, focus on creating a podcast for your local community. And you don't even have to talk about clinical trials. You can just talk about and do like a once a week podcast on news stories that happen in your community, the best restaurants to eat at, Little League scores. Just get as detailed as you want and keep it very local, extremely local, and make it a podcast, because people are listening to these things. And if you're willing to invest the time that it's going to take to get this thing started, you're going to reap the rewards later, because then you could start putting in between news stories, just like people put in commercials on the radio. You can put in your own commercial that says, this podcast is sponsored by such and such clinical trials, and we conduct studies for this and that. Please call us here. We've been in the community for X amount of years. I think it really makes sense. I think it's a good way to reach out to people. You don't need IRB approval for this, because you're not recruiting for anything. You're just promoting your brand, and you're serving the community. You're making your brand more known in the community. I'm going to do an in-depth podcast on this, with specifically how to set up a domain and a blog for free. I use Tumblr as my hosting for a lot of these domain names, and I bought a lot of these city domain .coms. I bought anaheimradio.net, irvineradio.net, beverlyhillsradio.com, buenaparkradio.com, lajollaradio.com. I've just been buying a lot of them. So I host all of them for free, and I'm going to talk about how to do this in a later podcast, and I'm going to talk about how to set it up on a podcast. I might create a program that teaches you how to blog, how to create a podcast, all that stuff that you researchers are interested in and should be interested in, because in this industry, we tend to be laggards, and we need to be innovators. And we need to, oftentimes, since no one's really innovating in our industry, we need to look outside of our industry for innovations. And I think we're onto something here. So let me know your thoughts. If you have questions, email me about how to do this, dan@theclinicaltrialsguru.com. I'll be happy to help. Stay tuned for my full-length podcast on this. And give a shout out to my Clinical Trial Guru producers. That's Sarah Elizabeth Siegler, Resolve Research Solutions, Accurate Clinical Trials, Erdhart Clinical Trials, PTNR, Patrick Stone, Darshan Kulkarni, Biopharm Systems, Zymora, Mozio, South Coast Clinical Trials, Breakthrough Clinical Trials, and St. Paul Medical Research Center in Miami, Florida. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.